Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this show. It has been over a year now since I last drank a sip of alcohol. So I thought, why not talk to you about my experience and what has happened since I have stopped drinking. We'll be discussing why I stopped drinking in the first place, my relationship with alcohol, the effects it had on me before I stopped drinking, and how it has changed my brain chemistry since then. Questioning why we drink and drinking culture, and what I do going forward. I'm Harrison, and this is the Growth Voyage podcast. Enjoy. Okay, first of all, why did I stop drinking? I think at first it was simply because I couldn't afford not to feel at my best. At the time I was about a month maybe into my tech recruitment job, which is very fast paced, early mornings, late finishes. And I thought, well, I can't afford to not feel like a newborn baby every day. So that was one of the reasons. Sports as well was a big one. I wanted to push myself in jiu-jitsu, especially. I was really enjoying it, getting used to that. And I thought, well, why wouldn't I want to recover properly? So it was quite a natural thing. It wasn't something I had particularly planned. I know I'd always wanted to cut down. I wasn't a particularly heavy drinker, but yeah, that was certainly one of the reasons. Another one was money, really. It just didn't make sense for me to spend so much money on alcohol. And to put it into perspective, I was thinking, well, I could easily spend £30 a weekend on alcohol, right? I think for a lot of listeners that might sound quite conservative, but let's say 30 quid. At that rate, you're spending at least 1,500 quid a year on alcohol. And when I saw it that way, I was like, well, do I really, really need this? And that made the decision quite easy. And yeah, I felt like I just didn't really need it. I know for a lot of people, alcohol is used to, maybe act as a social lubricant or that type of thing. Maybe get a bit more enjoyment out of life. I don't know everyone else's reasons. For me personally, I was kind of already high on life, if I'm being truly honest. And I found that it actually reduced my energy rather than add to it. I know a lot of people, they feel like it gives them more confidence or brings out their personality. For me, I felt it was the obvious. Whenever I would drink, my thought patterns would slow down and I would sort of bring out less of myself. It was a bit strange. Maybe that's the same for some of you listening as well. Mentally, obviously, yeah, hangovers just aren't that great, to be honest. Definitely had a bit of anxiety, as they call it, when you get that anxious feeling the day after drinking a lot. And it was also a mentality change that came with that. I thought, well, is 6 hours of fun being getting really pissed, worth it for 18 hours of pain? And I came to the conclusion that it wasn't quite worth it. And the big one as well was health, because I had listened to Andrew Huberman's podcast on alcohol, his episode, and in my opinion, everybody should listen to that. It was really eye-opening. And yeah, so many health detriments there, which I don't think we really think about. Everyone knows alcohol is not great for you, but the level of detail he goes in, he talks about gut health and that type of thing. Yeah, it really opened my eyes, and I thought, well, if I don't really need it, then what's the point? And we always make trade-offs, right? We always make trade-offs for our health. whether it's smoking, whether it's sacrificing sleep so we can do more stuff, maybe it's food now and then. For me, I chose, or I made the decision that alcohol was simply not worth interfering with my health. It just wasn't worth it. So those were the reasons why I stopped. Again, didn't have a big drinking problem or anything like that, but yeah, just wasn't really needed, to be honest. And I kind of had a change of perspective. A bit of backstory then, I guess, before I stopped drinking. Like I said, wasn't a big drinker per se, but obviously going through the UK university system, naturally there's a big drinking culture, right? And it's central to a lot of activities. And I remember being absolutely disgusted with the amount I was drinking. I would finish, those 750 milliliter bottles of white rum. I think I used to get, ironically, because I'd read somewhere that clearer alcohol gave you less of a hangover, which is just ridiculous to even think about that. But anyway, that was my thinking. And that was just at the pre-drinks as well. Then you'd go out, and at uni, you might combine it with other things, but on the student nights as well, we had these little fruit drinks, which were quite tasty, called VKs, which were flavored, fruit drinks. So I'd drink those, and obviously you'd get people ordering tequilas and that type of thing. It was just disgusting how much I would drink on the nights out. I wasn't really much of a weekly drinker. I know I had a couple friends at the time who would have a beer on a weekday or that type of thing. That wasn't really my thing. And yeah, there were instances where it was, as you'd say, sort of blackout drunk, where you just wouldn't remember the night, and then you'd hear all these stories. I was never aggressive. I was never an aggressive drunk. I know some people have that issue. That wasn't really me. But when I drank too much, I would just not remember it, which is not a good feeling. Didn't happen all the time, but yeah, would just feel absolutely devastated the next day. And I'd go to the local Sainsbury's, get myself a cinnamon roll or something, and try and make myself feel better. And aside from that, like I said, pretty normal. Maybe a couple of pints at the weekend if I'm not going on a big one, but not too crazy. But it definitely added to my stress at uni. I could not think with a straight head. And I think university is a very stressful period. You've got deadlines, maybe you're doing sports as well, relationships, that type of thing, and all the drama that unfolds. And I really think alcohol added fuel to the fire. It wouldn't make me think straight. I think at times I was quite anxious, and I just feel like if I'd had, and obviously alcohol was a huge part of that, but I feel like if I'd had a clearer head and I wasn't sort of abusing stuff like alcohol, then I probably would have been in a better mental state, particularly in the first year. I think that was a big roller coaster of emotions for me. But yeah, afterwards, probably the bit most people are interested in is how I felt after. I think the biggest one straight off the bat is a clearer mind. Decisive moments or relationship discussions, that type of thing, I could see things from a balanced perspective, right? I knew that when a certain relationship was ending or whether we were discussing something important, it wasn't just a drunk discussion. I could trust the thoughts that were going into my head, right? And especially on nights out as well, I can just see it now. You get this perspective now, and you see people sort of talking and socializing on a night out, and you see their brains just like running on, just running really quickly. And it's, a lot calmer, really, really calm. And my overall energy, I think it goes without saying, really, obviously less hangovers, well, none at all, really. My sleep is fantastic, really, really good. And I just felt really productive. And the next morning I'd wake up, even if I slept a bit less, because I was on a night out or met someone for non-alcoholic drinks, I would still feel like I could take on the day, and I didn't have an excuse that would then push me back into, we drank yesterday, let's just chill, let's not go to the gym or anything like that. It was, I definitely had more energy. even on nights out as well. This was a really interesting one because I have friends now back in the UK. I would join them for a boogie, a night out, and at 2:30, I'd be talking to them. They said, "Yeah, I've crashed off the alcohol now. I'm going to bed." Meanwhile, I've had two Diet Cokes and I'm absolutely buzzing. And I'm like, I want to stay out a bit longer. It's really funny how that works. So yeah, overall energy was fantastic. Progression in sports in the gym, obviously, that in and of itself is going to always be a journey, your fitness journey. You're going to have better days and less good days. But I felt on average, in fact, most of the time, I was improving on my lifts in the gym, which was obviously really, really cool. And yeah, I did notice a change of relationships, whether they were friendly relationships or romantic. And I didn't really hang around people just to have a drink. It naturally, I think I built more meaningful connections as well because you weren't relying on alcohol to have a good time with someone. And a lot of my really cool friends would have a catch up and it would be for a coffee and it was just awesome. You're releasing the endorphins, you have an hour's good chat, and I find that most of the time, yeah, you could talk to them endlessly, but that's a good amount of time to catch up with someone, and it doesn't lead to questionable decision making. I also think I became more confident as well. I won't lie, I did feel pretty confident before starting drinking, but naturally I wasn't relying on alcohol to make the conversation a bit spicy perhaps, and I think that helped just with socializing generally, and of course more money. Even on nights out when I'd go for a boogie or meet someone for a catch up, there were late nights and I was fortunate enough to have a car and there was free parking after a certain time, especially on the weekends. And there was no congestion charge either if I'm going to London. So free parking, no Uber, no traffic at night as well. Pretty awesome. And yeah, that's because I'm not drinking, obviously. And I think just having more money, it means that I'm going to spend money on things that I actually want and enjoy. I feel like how many times before where I'd see a protein shake or I'd see something that would be beneficial to my health or something useful, and I just wouldn't buy it because I thought, oh, okay, I can get it cheaper somewhere else, or, let's not buy it today. Whereas now, because I'm not wasting money on alcohol, I'm not just throwing money away, because that, in my opinion, is what it is, at least for me, right? You're just spending endless money on a temporary feeling, which, in my opinion, it was temporary and I didn't even enjoy it that much. Point is, I had more money to spend on myself. And yeah, looking back now, I could spend it on this podcast, for example, or on trips away, on my family, that type of thing. So that was really, really cool. One of the biggest benefits, I think. And like I said before, one of the reasons that I was put off drinking. Don't get me wrong, I can see the other side, perhaps if you're socially anxious and why alcohol might help by acting as a social lubricant. But I don't know, I'm no expert, but I do think if you have the opportunity to grow by being brave and speaking without alcohol, naturally, I think that skill will improve and your confidence will just skyrocket naturally. If you're able to be flirty without alcohol, if you're able to chat without alcohol, and naturally that gets a lot easier over time. That's the biggest thing I've noticed. I would say, naturally, as an overthinker myself, I can see the appeal of alcohol as a form of escapism. But again, on the one hand, you get super drunk. I imagine a lot of thoughts would just come out anyway. Generally, these aren't like great, I don't think. And I also think sobriety just forces you to acknowledge what's in your head, right? Your thoughts, and not to run away from them. I think that really helps in the long run as well. And questioning why we drink as well. The reason why I think it's important to question, right, is because it is such a regular thing. Obviously, yeah, you get people who, for example, they might take drugs at a festival or that type of thing, but unless they've got a bit more of a serious problem, they're not going to be doing that every weekend or even during the week, right? And yeah, I think that's why it is important to discuss why we're drinking. Obviously, I've seen the comparison myself. The UK, I've heard it's the same in Australia with other cultures as well. When I was living in Spain, for example, I noticed that people drank. Yeah, it was part of the socialization process, but it wasn't the center of the evening. People weren't there to get shit faced, for example. It was merely, okay, cool, let's have a glass of wine or a beer. And it's different perspective. Perhaps it's an age thing, but then I know there are types of people who will just love to get spangled, if you will, for lack of a better word. I would always say, if you are questioning it as well, I would say, okay, are you drinking to enhance your life experience or because you need to, because you're not getting something out of that circumstance or life generally? Something to think about, perhaps. And bear in mind, right, I'm not really judging anyone who drinks alcohol. I think people do what works for them, and everyone has a little vice, right? Whether it's smoking, drinking, perhaps it's eating, whatever it may be. It could be a couple drinks on a date, perhaps, or maybe like a 3-day bender. Cool. Do what you enjoy and what works for you. That said, I think it does help to be fully aware of what you're actually doing. Smokers, for example, they know the risks. They know how bad it is for you, and they're making a conscious choice to smoke, right? As mentioned previously, yes, we know drinking is not great for you, but because of how socially accepted it is, I feel like a lot of those get pushed to the side, or on a lot of the reasons for not drinking are sort of, put beneath the surface. And I think if everyone listens to that Andrew Huberman podcast, just listen to it, and then if you still want to drink at the rate that you do, or just drink full stop, cool. But my opinion is everyone should be aware of what they're doing. And I'm very much aware of the long-term effects of everything we do on a daily basis. All the small things that we do, they play a very important role in our lives. Obviously, I've mentioned before in this pod how I'm a big fan of the compounding effect and the idea of the slight edge, where everything you do in the day compounds over a period of time, right? So you might not see a difference today or tomorrow or the next week or the next month, but over the course of 5 years, your daily habits are going to accumulate. And with drinking, I really looked at that and I was like, I don't really need it. If I stop drinking now, how much will my body be thanking me 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now? Again, it's a different perspective. I remember my old boss at the recruiting firm I worked at. I think he remembers being told that you'll get the receipt from your 20s and 30s in your 40s, 50s, 60s and beyond. And that really stuck with me. So again, something to think about. We don't think about our future selves enough, but that would just be, again, just a perspective to look at. That's all for this episode. I really hope you enjoyed. Would love to hear any of your perspectives as well. And if any of you have gone on your own little sobriety journey or tried Sober October or Dry Jan, anything like that, would love to hear how you've gotten on as well. That's it for now. But yeah, take it easy and I'll see you very soon.